Hi everyone, it's Lynn. Listen, I was just I was getting ready to sew on the long arm, and I had a wide back that I bought. And when I bought the wide back, the person who cut it for me used scissors to cut it on off the bolt. So I just want to show you what will happen if you buy a wide back and they measure it and then they cut it off the bolt for you with scissors and not tear it. I know that people don't agree with tearing your fabric, but for a wide back, this is just a PSA. It really is just a PSA. So when they cut it on a straight edge, because they don't know where the grain line is, and the grain line is the length of the weave from selvage to selvage. That's the grain line, okay? And so if you cut it and you don't know where the grain line is, then it will not be straight ever because you can't see it. But if you rip it, it will rip on the grain line. So I just want to show you, I'm going to turn the overhead camera on. I just want to show you that this was one end of the, I knew when I laid it on my long arm, it wasn't even. So I want to stitch. I'm going to have a better quilt back if I stitch with it, the grain line straight, right? And if you're using a wide back, this is something you got to pay attention to. So, and I don't know that a lot of people are doing this anymore. So I knew that it wasn't straight, so I straightened out the rip side. There was one side that was ripped. I straightened out the rip side. And then I went to the other side and I cut just a skosh in so that I could have some ripping room. And this is the difference. This is where I cut. And this is how much difference the grain line ripped. And the other side will just make you sad. So you will notice as it was ripping on the grain line, right? As I was ripping it on the grain line, it became wider and wider and wider. And I paid for, and this is actually almost 7 inches. I lost 7 inches of width of my wide back because when they cut it, they didn't cut it on the grain line. So, just a PSA, when you're buying a wide back, ask them to rip it. And not everybody will. But either buy extra, especially because they're not always folded straight, but you can see how much of a difference, and it will make a difference in the flatness of that back when you're quilting it, especially on a long arm. So if you're doing it all domestic, I mean, I don't know that it's going to bother you as much because you're just going to lay it out straight and you'll just move it and that'll be fine. But if you're doing it on a long arm and you want that to be flat and straight, just rip your fabric so that it stays on grain. PSA, you can do what you want.